Ooh. So what do you think?
I think it works.
Are you crazy?
Hello and welcome to another issue of the Headless Hammerhead Guide to Comics and More. Today we have another powerful video for you where we're going to be continuing our discussion on the power sets, this time the Shield Bearer powers. So if you're a fan of Captain America or Taskmaster or any of the shield bearing characters from the Marvel Universe, this is the video for you. We're going to be discussing it, but first, an announcement. Stay to the end. I am going to be announcing a contest. I've announced it on a prior video, but if you miss it, you can hear it right here. So hold on to your seats because here we go. The Shield Bearer power set is one of the smaller power sets from the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game power sets, and at first glance it seems like it's very limited in that it's restricted to one item that your character must always carry to be able to use their powers. So let's go over what this actually means. We're going to go over each one of these powers one by one, and we'll discuss what the utility is inside and outside of combat and how practical they are in use. Alright, so looking at the list, we have a good mix of rank 1 and rank 2 powers. There's a couple rank 3 in there, but most are rank 1 and 2. We have Brace for Impact, do this all day, Hurled Shield Bash, Hurled Shield Block, Hurled Shield Deflection, Immovable, Rico Shield, Shield 1 through 4, Shield Bash, Shield Deflection, and Shield Wall. Now, a quick note about being a shield bearer. In the book, it talks about that this power set is specifically made for Captain America and all his iterations, quote unquote, and that you should choose a color for your shield and maybe even a banner or a design for it that represents a country or whatever. I think that's very limiting and thinking in very, very narrow terms. Being a shield bearer shouldn't limit you to just having a shield. I mean, your character could be a Mexican mariachi who wears a sombrero that he uses as a shield or hurls at people. Your character could use a psychic shield or a badge if he's like a lawman. Could be glasses or a watch or wristbands like Power Princess. Could be a book, could be an orb, could be like a bottle of something, of tequila. It could be a creature that floats around you and deflects your bullets, and then you can have them fly at people and deflect thrown objects and stuff. It could be anything. So don't limit yourself to just a round shield that you hold in your arm, just like Captain America, because you're just going to have a carbon copy of Captain America, and it's just a derivative character of one that already exists. So why limit yourself to that? Open up your mind, try to get really creative with it, carry coconuts and hurl coconuts at people, whatever. We'll talk about this after the video a little bit too, with some more ideas, but here we go. So we're going to talk about the multi-tiered power first, which is Shield, and you've got Shield 1, 2, 3, and 4. So looking at these, Shield 1, power set, of course, Shield Bearer, prerequisites none, so it's a rank 1 power. A standard or reaction is the type of action it takes. The trigger for reaction would be if you're attacked, and the duration is concentration. Basically, it gives you health damage reduction 1, which is pretty good, especially in the lower levels. Now, Shield 2 is the same exact thing. It has a prerequisite of Shield 1 and being rank 2. It's a rank 2 power. Standard or reaction if you're attacked. Concentration, this one does cost 5 focus, but it does the damage reduction up to a 2, which is good as well. So that means the multiplier for damage is reduced by ×2, which is pretty big. Shield 3 and 4 are the exact same thing. Shield 3 requires a rank 4, and Shield 2 has a prerequisite. This one costs 15 focus, and it reduces damage by 3. And Shield 4 is a rank 6 power, and it costs 25 focus points, but you get health damage reduction 4. So how are these as far as utility in and out of combat? Well, Shield 1 and 2 are pretty good. Shield 2 at 5 focus and Shield 1 with no focus cost is really good as an action and a reaction. If you're taking a lot of hits, you're surrounded or whatever, that's pretty good. When you get to the higher ones, 3 and 4, they're rank 4 and rank 6 powers, and I feel in those ranks there are much better powers you could have. Even powers that are lower ranked than that can be a lot more useful. Plus they have a big focus cost, 15 and 25. If you're not using house rules or any type of homebrew rules for focus increase and health increase, you're draining a heck of a lot of your focus pool that does not increase with ranks. That's going to take up a lot of your focus, which can end up really hurting your character in the end. Immovable is also under the Shield Bearer and Super Strength, of course, because somebody like Juggernaut would be immovable and have this power. No prerequisites, so it's rank 1. Action is a reaction, and the trigger for reaction is if you're knocked back or knocked prone. Duration is instant, and the effect is every point of melee defense the character has, they can reduce knockback by 1 space. So, being knocked prone isn't good for your character. It does grant you some bonuses though against ranged attacks, so knocked prone isn't always a bad thing, but it could damage you if you're in melee, because you do get some hindrances while you're there on the floor. But knockback in itself is not really a big thing, because in the chapter on combat they use an example of Wolverine getting hit through a bunch of walls. He crashes through like 5 walls, and it doesn't cause your character any extra damage to crash through these walls. It's just the damage you took from the initial hit. So as you crash through these walls, you're breaking the walls, but you're not taking any additional damage. So knockback, unless you're fighting on the top of a building and it's going to knock you off the side of the building, preventing knockback isn't really that big a deal. Unless also you're maybe the defender for your group and you're all standing together and you're the one blocking all the shots for them, then I could see some use for it. But otherwise, Immovable really isn't a great power. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Now we have Shield Bash, Shield Bearer power set, no prerequisites, so it's rank 1. Standard action, it's an instant duration, and basically what you do is you make a close attack on an enemy within your reach. The attack is a success, the enemy takes regular damage. If it's a fantastic success, they take double damage and they're knocked prone. So this basically just gives you a regular attack. If you get a fantastic success, it does double damage, okay, which happens already. And you do get the benefit of knocking the enemy prone if it's a fantastic success, which is great, in addition to additional bonus benefit for getting that fantastic success. So knocking an enemy prone in melee combat is actually a really good benefit, but this power is kind of just in the middle. It's just here or there. We have Shield Deflection, also Shield Bearer power set, no prerequisites, so rank 1. It's a reaction, and the trigger for the reaction is if you're a target of an attack to your agility defense. It's an instant duration, and it gives the attack trouble. So basically you're using this power to use your reaction to give trouble to a ranged attack. It's okay, but I'd rather not waste my reaction. If you're using Karma the way it's written in the core rulebook, where it doesn't take an action, then you may as well just use a Karma point to give trouble to the attack and save your reaction for something else, like Skulk, for example. So I think that there are better ways to give trouble to a ranged attack against you, but if you don't want to use Karma, or your narrator doesn't use Karma in that way, or they use a rule where Karma uses an action or reaction, then of course this would be the way to go. Now we got Brace for Impact, which also falls under the Martial Arts and Shield Bearer power sets. Prerequisites are do this all day and rank 2. The action type is a reaction, and the trigger for the reaction is if an enemy deals physical damage to your character. Duration is instant, cost is 5 or more focus. And here's the effect. For every point of focus spent, the character can ignore 1 point of health damage dealt by the attack. So this is pretty good because you're spending a minimum of 5 focus, you're reducing at least 5 damage. Now this is not the multiplier, just actual HP that's taken off individually off your total HP. But you're basically trading focus points for health. So if you have a big focus pool, you can basically take a lot of damage and still be standing pretty. The prerequisite for that power though is do this all day. Again, martial arts and shield bearer, a rank 2 power. Standard action, it's an instant duration, cost is 5 or more focus, and the effect, you heal 2 points of health for every point of focus you spend. So this is even better than Brace for Impact, because now you're trading each focus point for 2 health instead of just 1, but it's a recovery, not a prevention, and it's an action, not a reaction. So there's a caveat. But if you're able to take that initial blow and save your reaction for something else and not use Brace for Impact, and instead do this all day, and during your action just recover your health at a cost of 1 focus for every 2 health minimum, 10 health recovery at a cost of 5 focus, and you can keep doing that and recover fully with very little cost. And then you add on top of that the ability to regain focus with the use of karma, and now you really can do this all day. So this is an awesome power. Now we have Hurled Shield Bash, Shield Bearer power set, prerequisite Shield Bash, and it's a rank 2 power. Standard action, instant duration, range is 10 spaces times the character's rank. That's a huge range. Cost is 5 focus, and the effect, you make a ranged attack on an enemy. If the attack is a success, enemy takes regular damage. On a fantastic success, the enemy takes double damage and is knocked prone. Shield then bounces back to your character. So this is basically just the ranged attack version of the Shield Bash power, but it's got a heck of a range, at 10 spaces times the character's rank. So at rank 3, that's 30 spaces. That is huge, and it only costs 5 focus. So it's not bad at all. And then we have Hurled Shield Block, which again, Shield Bearer power set, prerequisites Shield 1 and rank 2. Reaction, the trigger for the reaction is an enemy makes an attack against an ally's agility. Duration is instant, range is 5 spaces times the character's rank, cost of 5 focus, and the effect is the ally gains health damage reduction equal to the character's shield power against that attack. The shield then bounces back to the character. So this is a great power for a support character because you're able to block attacks from other characters against your allies, and you double this up with karma. You can use karma to give trouble to that attack, and then if the attack still lands, you can reduce the damage multiplier by using this Hurled Shield Block, which is really good, and it only costs 5 focus points to do, and it's a reaction, which is great too. So this is a pretty good power. It's got a good range, not as good as the Hurled Shield Bash, but it's still got a very good range. So Rico Shield, power set Shield Bearer, Hurled Shield Bash, and rank 3 other prerequisites. This is the highest ranked power other than Shield 4. So it's a rank 3 power. Standard action, instant duration, range is 10 spaces times the character's rank, a huge range. Cost is 10 focus. The character makes a ranged attack on a target. If the attack is a success, target takes regular damage. On a fantastic success, the target is also knocked prone, and you can make an extra attack on another target, adding the extra range between the 2 targets to the new attack roll. This can be repeated until an attack is not a fantastic success. When the attacks are over, the shield then bounces back to the character. So in theory, this is a great power. At only 10 focus costs, you could theoretically take down an entire battalion of Hydra agents by hurling your shield and having it just bounce off the heads of each one as they go down the line, and then your shield comes back to you. So in theory, it looks great. However, for it to be able to do that, you have to land fantastic success after fantastic success. The only way to really be able to do this is to spend a ton of karma to keep re-rolling your dice until and fishing for the fantastic successes on each roll, and then yeah, you can do damage. You'll be doing double damage on each one of those guys that you hit. So it's a very powerful move if you can pull it off. Again, it would take a heck of a lot of karma and a lot of lucky rolls to be able to pull this off, to even hit 3 or 4 people. 2, yeah, maybe you can pull that off pretty commonly, but against various attackers, it is going to be nearly impossible. So yeah, in theory, it's a great power. In practice, not so much. And finally, we have Shield Wall. Shield bearer, brace for impact, rank 3 power. Action is movement, duration is concentration, and attacks against the character have trouble. The character breaks concentration on this power if they use a movement action. This power is great in a battle if you're hunkered down, surrounded maybe, or just standing your ground, hurling your shield and then just standing there, not planning on using any movement, because it doesn't take an action or reaction. It uses your movement action, which is actually, unless you're moving around the board and really need your movement, if you're standing still in a fight, usually you're not going to move a lot. So this will take up your movement action to basically take the place of spending karma to give trouble to an attacker. And this gives trouble to all attackers as long as you're concentrating on standing your ground here. So this is actually a really decent power if you're not planning on moving. If you're in a battle where it's a small space where you're not going to be moving around a lot, it is a great way to give trouble to all the attacks against you, and basically for free. So all in all, as much as Captain America is romanticized, the powers they give him here in this power set are, none of them are terrible, but none of them are out of this world great. So this kind of falls just in the middle. The ones that are bad are just slightly bad. The ones that are good are pretty good. And they do have some utility, especially Shield Wall is pretty good. And Hurled Shield Block is pretty good too. Of course, Brace for Impact and Do This All Day. Amazing powers. Those actually are really great powers, those two. But they're not limited to the Shield Bearer power set. They're in other power sets as well. Outside of, these are great all in combat, of course. They're specifically designed for combat. That's what a shield is for, right? But they do have utility outside of combat as well. I mean, you have an anvil coming down on top of civilians. You can hurl your shield and boom, deflect it out of the way so it doesn't crush the civilians. You can block rocks falling from, you know, the cliff over on top of civilians too. You can do a bunch of stuff outside of combat with these powers as well, and I think it's got some utility in many ways. If there's a fire, you can probably use some kind of feat to use your shield, hold your shield up to run civilians out of the burning building, or your friends or whatever. And whether your character uses a Christmas tree or a book or even another creature as your shield, quote unquote, this can add a lot of flavor to a character. You can have a truly unique character under this power set if you don't limit yourself to what it says in the book and have a shield with a design on the front, you know, a flag or whatever, because then you'll just be a carbon copy. If you create a truly unique character, you know, with a little creature floating around and he blocks the shots for you and he flies around and knocks around, bounces off people's heads and stuff, I mean, that could be really interesting. And even existing characters that you adapt, for example, a lot of these powers can fall into, for example, Gambit. His cards, they can serve as a hurled shield bash, throwing the playing cards. You can block attacks by hurling your cards. You can do a lot of things with this power set if you're creative, and that's what I highly suggest, is that you really sit down. If you end up picking from this power set, sit down and make something truly different and that'll stand out, because these are the things that can make this game a blast and make it different than other role-playing games, and what makes it truly stand out. And so ends another issue of the Headless Hammerhead Guide to Comics and More. I want to thank you for watching, for all your support, also for liking, commenting, subscribing, and hitting that bell. It all helps. And also, please watch my video on the resized powers for details on a contest I'm holding. Once I reach 249.2 subscribers or more, then I will run a raffle for a huge prize worth over $300, and you will get this prize, no questions asked, and I'm sure you're gonna love it. It's related to the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game and Marvel Comics in general, and it's a fantastic prize. Believe me, you're gonna want to enter. The best way to enter, leave a comment on my videos, leave as many comments as you can. Make sure to subscribe as well. If you have questions, please email me at headlesshammerhead@gmail.com. For all your comics, pop culture, and Marvel Multiverse role-playing game needs, please visit my store. dangerouswaterscomics.com. That's Dangerous Waters with an S, comics with an S.com. You'll find a bunch of cool stuff on there. You'll also find my free, nifty narrator screen. You'll find a free printable random character generator. Also, check the description below for a link to our digital random character generator, where you can just click a button, enter a name, and it'll print out on a PDF a full character sheet, a character with powers, a rank 1 character, and we're working on changing that so that you're able to create a character of any rank, and that'll be coming soon. So thanks to BaconBits Studio for that software, and thank you all again for watching, for sticking to the end, and remember,
we don't bite here.